After a huge move in 2020 and a continuation of new highs this year, Bitcoin is squarely in the spotlight. And here now to discuss what's ahead for crypto is Jan VanEck, the CEO of VanEck. Thanks for joining me today, Jan.
Of course.
All right, so first, what do you make of this stunning move we've seen for crypto as of late, and what do you attribute it to?
Well, I think it's hard to know in the short term what drives the prices, but what I'd like to focus on is some fundamental changes that's happened in the market since 2017, early 2017, when we as a firm got involved and the Bitcoin price was 2,500 a coin. So big picture, of course, the number of investors has expanded dramatically into the tens of millions. Square, through its Cash app last year, and PayPal have added their multi-$10 million plus customers to the ecosystem. So that's gotten mainstreamed. It's on your Apple phone. So and Mass Mutual and a big public company called MicroStrategies bought over hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin. So endowments are looking at it. Institutional investors are looking at it, of course. But underneath the surface, and this is not available to a lot of investors, has been the emergence of what's called decentralized finance, which means that actually you can earn interest on your Bitcoin holdings. So you have to go to different crypto platforms to get that, but they're offering 6% and more. And in a very low interest rate world, that is going to attract a lot of investor attention. So that's number one. And then number two is just the fact that these platforms have become so robust. They're away from our traditional financial system, but not only can you earn interest, but you can structure derivatives. There's a lot of different types of financial products, probably insurance products in the future. You'll have a credit card this year where you can actually earn points in Bitcoin. So I just think that all those things are just going to broaden and more mainstream the use of Bitcoin. Lastly, sorry for the long answer, that regulators are giving green lights to broker dealers holding Bitcoin for their clients and banks using them in financial transactions. So that green light has also given some impetus to the price of Bitcoin this year.
Definitely. And, with the last big run in Bitcoin a couple of years ago, there was a lot of buzz and a lot of debate about comparing Bitcoin to gold. And the two, one side saying that, you can kind of think about it in the same way. And the other side staunchly saying, no, that is not the appropriate comparison to make. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you think that conversation has changed in the last couple of years?
Right. Well, VanEck is very close to the gold investing community. We started the first gold fund in the United States and a big holder in gold mining companies. But I do think Bitcoin should be part of your diversification portfolio. I say both. Own gold, own some gold shares, but also own Bitcoin. Bitcoin acts a little bit like, I call it, a store of value and a tech stock, sort of a third a store of value and 2/3 a tech stock. Maybe it's half and half now. So it's got different dynamics, just like silver as an alternative to gold has different dynamics. But absolutely in 2017, we determined this is a legitimate long-term diversifier to your portfolio. And I think in a way, it's got a lot of upside. Gold's total market cap is about 12 trillion. Right now, Bitcoin and other digital assets just passed 1 trillion in total value. But even if it's a junior competitor to gold, why couldn't it get to half the total market value of gold, which would be 5 or 6 trillion, which would be another 10x from here.
So do you think the fact that Bitcoin is no longer seen as a novelty, that there are real uses for it and that mainstream adoption has broadened, do you think that should prevent sort of that boom and bust that we saw in Bitcoin when we rewind the clock a couple of years ago? Or how should investors be thinking about the stability when they're thinking about investing in Bitcoin?
I think that's a great point. And Plan B, who's one of the, I think, most reputable commentators on the Bitcoin price, basically points out that Bitcoin has gone through different phases of maturation, right? When its total market cap was 1 million, obviously it was a toy, right? When it got to be 100 million, okay, it's a little bit more serious. Obviously now with again, the millions of users and the total value, well over $500 billion, you're bringing more use cases and more investors into the space. And so I would expect, to answer your question, less volatility in the price. The big picture to me was, and this was happened to gold last year, can this asset reach all-time highs, which for Bitcoin was in 2017. And when it did, I think that kind of shows, well, wait a minute, this is not just a bubble, a tulip bubble, right? And it does not have legs to it, long-term legs. And I think absolutely the market move in the last 3 to 6 months has proven that Bitcoin has a much longer future trajectory than just a one-term bubble. I hope the drawdowns aren't going to be as big, but absolutely investors should expect that it could go down 50% or more, in any, like stocks did in March of last year, right? And so what I recommend to people is buy a little. I know they think, oh my God, it's gone, I've missed the whole thing, but buy a little, just to get your mind over it. And then if the price goes down significantly, buy more.
All right. And speaking of accessibility to crypto, getting that in an easy way, that's definitely something of interest to investors in our audience. And VanEck recently filed for a Bitcoin fund. What do you think that that is going to do in terms of the accessibility for crypto in the investing world?
I mean, Bitcoin right now is as easy as your your phone, right? You can use your Square Cash app, you can use PayPal, you can use Coinbase's account. Now, whether you like the fees and all the features there is a second question. What an ETF brings is, frankly, the convenience of buying it out of your investment account, and also the tax reporting. And I know that sounds silly, but people don't like to do their paperwork. They don't like to file their taxes. And when all that stuff is provided for them with their brokerage system, that level of convenience is important. The other thing is the reliability of the infrastructure of a national stock exchange like a NASDAQ or in New York. You still hear of crypto exchanges going down. You don't quite know what their capitalization is. So with an ETF, you also have a more stable infrastructure. And of course, then you have the regulatory overlay, which should give investors more comfort. But listen, I don't see it anytime in the first half of 2021. So who knows when it'll happen.
All right, well, shifting gears here and focusing our attention on another hot trend over the last year, and that is the esports and video game group. Now, that trend did see a lot of acceleration in the pandemic. The VanEck ESPO ETF up some 80% in 2020, proving that this trend, it's not a flash in the pan, that it is here to stay. What are your thoughts on what we're seeing with that trend?
Yeah, I like to puncture myths around gaming, because I think, in my mind, at least, and in some people's minds, you think of a single person playing a game on a device or a PC or something like that. And I think what's really changed, the real revolution in gaming, is that it's social. And that's why I think it presents a threat to, let's say, a Netflix. So Netflix, you're sitting on your sofa, it's not very social. And Netflix itself in 2019 said that they saw that gaming was a competitor for them. And just to do a comparison, Fortnite has 270 million paying customers. That's more than Netflix at about 200 million, right? So that's how revolutionary gaming as a social phenomenon is. The other thing, obviously, is the use of your phone, like I was talking about, for buying Bitcoin and playing games on your phone, which you couldn't used to be able to do. And that's also broadened the use. It's also very much a global phenomenon. There's some overlap we were talking about before between stocks held in our ESPO ETF and the Investors Business Daily 50 top growth stocks. But some of the faster growers are internationally. So, so there's lots of ways of playing this trend. In the future, what gets me excited is, okay, you take those 270 million players of Fortnite, you can cross-sell them other things, right? You don't have to just sell them uniforms in the game or whatever people buy within the Fortnite game. And of course, there's a lot of that going on. But wow, what if you started offering them streaming videos or other kind of social connections like you get in Facebook. And so all these industries are kind of competing against each other for people's attention and entertainment.
Yeah, such good points there. And it sounds like that trend has some room to grow. So we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you so much for your perspective today on these hot trends.
Thank you.
Hi there. Thanks so much for watching Investing Strategies on our YouTube channel. If you want more executive interviews and analysis of key trends to watch, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date.